important that we know that loving ourselves is the key to creating the realities that we want. It's important to know that by hurting ourselves with things like substance or overindulgence in a specific activity is not going to make things easier. It's not going to make it better. In fact, it's likely going to make it worse. It is important that we know that we are powerful and that we are the creators of our existence. We are the creators of what we see in our lives. It is important that we know that we should not be taking victim mentalities, but instead being the victor, being the resilience, being the hero in your own story, being the superhero in your own story, and saving yourself. There is nobody here to save you. However, there is guides, there are people around that will just simply reflect the things that you need to hear, not because you don't have the power to save yourself, but because they are reminders of who you are. Don't ever be afraid to take someone's help. Don't ever be afraid to take someone's help when they're offering it in a genuine way without expectation. Get out of the ego. It is important that we know the difference between our ego versus our higher selves. It is important that we know that tapping into our higher selves and the messages that you get from your higher self, when you fight against it, that is your ego. It is important that we can decipher. It is important that we can make those connections, because when we get a message from our higher self and we fight against it with our ego, we are creating this big disconnection and this resistance. Then we're wondering why shit in our lives is feeling fucked up, because you are not listening to your higher self, because you have that inner voice, you have that power, but you're choosing, because we all have a choice, you are choosing to not listen to it. And when you choose to not listen to it, shit is going to get a little rocky. You're going to start stumbling. The reality of life is that it's not all light and love, and it's not all high vibrations all the fucking time. That is the reality of life. However, if you listen to your higher self at least 8 out of 10 of the times, maybe give or take 7, shit will start looking up. Things will start going better for you. You're always going to have those ups and those downs. However, when you start to listen to your higher self and start to really that ego, know the difference and know where you actually need to apply the ego and when you need to use the ego, because it is a part of us and every part of us is something that can be used for your benefit. But if your ego is being used to stagnate you, then that's not the time to do it. It is important that we know that balance with our mind, body, and spirits will lead us to the life that we want, lead us to the life that we deserve. You are abundant because you are here. When you look at nature that is abundant, we are reflections of nature. So what make you think that you any different and you deserve lack? You don't deserve lack. Your mindset is about shifting that mindset out of the lack, coming back into the abundance. It is important that we know that loving ourselves goes so deep, so much more deeper than just saying it, but actually putting the actions into do it. And those actions ain't gonna be easy. Setting boundaries with people ain't gonna be easy. Saying no to people that you love ain't gonna be easy. Saying no to things that you want to do or consume, whether it's through the mouth or through the nose or through the womb, all of the orifices, all of the openings, right? Just because it's not easy though, well, just because it's not easy shows you that it's something that's worth doing. Anything that is worth doing and worth having is going to take work. And I don't mean working harder, I mean working smarter and being intentional about the things that you are doing, the things that you are consuming. things that are hardest to do is the things that will bring us to the next level. As we continue to shed skin and go on to higher levels, it is an infinite journey. And we must have compassion and grace with ourselves and one another. But just because we have compassion and grace with ourselves and one another doesn't mean that it's okay to hurt yourself. Stop hurting yourself. Hurting yourself doesn't have to be physical. Sometimes it's mental. Sometimes it's that self-doubt, the self-sabotaging, the way we're speaking to ourselves, the way we're not believing in ourselves. It's important that we know that we are sacred, that we have purpose to be here in this world. It's important that we know that we're not alone. There's always somebody else going through something similar. And there's always somebody else that you could talk to. There's always somebody else that could just be there for support. But we have to be open to receive it. We have to be open to receive it. And we have to start taking a look at ourselves before we're blaming anybody else. And before we're playing that victim role and thinking that everything is just against you. And start asking yourself, what are you doing to reflect this life? What are you doing when you see things in your life that you enjoy, that brings you joy, that brings you happiness, that brings you growth? Versus what are the things that come into your life or that you indulge in that don't bring you joy, that bring you misery, that bring you suffering, that bring you depression, that bring you sadness, that bring you anxiety? Start to even make a list of those things and start to tune more into the things that make you happy. I Bubbly love you.